Why read a comic when you can be inside the comics? Well, that's exactly what Universal did with The Amazing Adventures of Spiderman, a beautiful dark ride that transforms you from the physical sets into the virtual ones in a way that is seamless to provide you with one amazing adventure. But how did Universal pull off such a feat? And how has it employed methods to help keep it a theme park masterpiece 26 years later? One of the first main areas that really make this ride stand out upon its time is the Scoop Ride Vehicle, an innovative system designed by Universal in which The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man was the first of its kind. This vehicle was state of the art and still is today, and is a beautiful blend between a simulator and a dark ride, taking guests on a dark ride journey but doing so in a way in which they have a simulator base attached to it, allowing for several degrees of motion, as well as several fun effects, like feeling the electricity shock of Electro as he zaps your vehicle. In addition to its motion base, the vehicle is designed in a way to focus your vision on a certain area of the ride, really helping Universal make that area stand out, as well as having more budget spent on those areas as they know that is where you will be looking. Likewise, the features of the walls on the sides of the vehicles not only do a great job of focusing your vision on a certain area, they also allow for guests to get closer to some of the set pieces than they traditionally would have, restricting their ability to move their arms outside of the ride vehicles in those areas, like the alleyways of New York City. Another great benefit of this ride vehicle is its capacity, as it is able to fit 12 guests on one ride vehicle in a relatively small space. After boarding this ride vehicle, one of the main areas of the ride is those high energy moments, and to help convey this in a way that made sense at the time and was only possible at this time is due to screens. However, Universal didn't just make it a screen-heavy ride, as they really did a great job of blending these screens into the real-world sets to help make sure that such actions were seamless, and that they were not only seamless, but the actions on the screen also translated into the real world, with several areas along the ride having such physical props and effects translating into it. Two great instances of this in the ride is the fire escape bouncing after Spider-Man jumps off of it and into the screen, as well as the Green Goblin blasting his fire through the wall in the real world, in which it translates seamlessly into the screen into the wall behind you in a way that is done seamlessly due to the vehicle's motion and the ability to focus your vision in a certain area to really allow for that seamless moment. Likewise, you also feel the heat of a moment, which is an important aspect of a ride, as while you not be able to physically touch stuff, the ability to have that touch is a great way to initiate your senses and really help immerse you in the story, as well as a water and smoke effect used later in the ride. Outside of having such effects come out of the screen themselves are done in a way in which they beautifully blend into the physical environment. To help pull this off, such physical elements of the ride often were found at the borders of the screen, really helping blend what is real and what is fake. To further sell the blend between worlds, as well as the distortion caused by 3D in the moving vehicle in their point of view, Universal developed a technique called squinching, in which they predicted such distortion and counteracted it with distortion in the opposite direction, constantly slightly tweaking certain images of the video to make sure they look seamless from the ride vehicle's point of view. When it comes to this story is another great area of the ride, as unlike some rides which you may be confused about why you're going through certain motions and seeing certain aspects of a ride, as well as the overall story, Universal did a great job of helping convey that story to guests. A story that starts in the queue, in which you'll find yourself in the Daily Bugle, which is a great and highly themed queue and a great way to help set up the story, as whether the ride is good or bad, the queue is a great place to start and can make a bad ride good and a great ride even better. During this queue, you'll immerse yourself in the offices of the Daily Bugle, in which you find yourself are being hired as a reporter to get a report on the story of the missing Statue of Liberty, during which you'll find yourselves in the crosshairs in which Spider-Man helps you along the way, as well as making sure that you're safe while doing so. While screen-based rides are a great way to help convey action that you can't necessarily do in the real world, one downside of them is that they often become aged over time, whether it be outdated projectors, less quality than you're used to nowadays in the modern times, as well as the CGI not being as good as what you're used to as well, with such CGI often seeing drastic improvements over time. Thankfully though, Universal saw of this ahead of time and continues to take steps to reinvest and improve upon the ride itself, with some taking steps like updating the projectors to display a higher definition image, as well as making sure that the image itself is more clear. They also go ahead and remastered the entire film back in 2012 to help make sure that the CGI is up to today's standards, as well as making several other improvements and effects added along the ride path. Unfortunately though, despite still being a great ride and even better than Disney's latest attempt at Spider-Man ride, Universal only has one version of this ride currently in operation, which can be found over at Islands of Adventure. However, this wasn't always the case, as Universal Japan previously also had their own version of the ride, a ride that did not exist within the superhero land, which is another great aspect of the ride, as such ride was designed in a way in which it could be implemented into other aspects of the land to help make sure that it can fit into more parks, as seen with Universal Japan, who placed the ride in their New York section of the park. However, if you go to that section of the park today, you'll find that it's currently behind construction walls to make way for a new ride. And it wasn't that Spider-Man wasn't popular over there. In fact, it was so popular they had a countdown for its closing, but rather due to licensing agreements, which is one downside of licensing such property. As while it is an iconic brand and may give you access to it, you don't necessarily always have full control. And as seen in Japan, when its 20-year contract ended, forcing the ride to end its life early when it could have continued to live on for several more years if it wasn't Universal-owned property. Thankfully though, when it came to Islands of Adventure, they would not have to deal with such fate, as Marvel was about to go bankrupt at the time and was drastically selling off and licensing several of its properties to help increase its financial margins on items and help make sure that it survives to the next decade. While doing so, Islands of Adventure at Universal was granted a fantastic deal, in which they not only got the Marvel rights for extremely cheap than they would be today, but was done in a deal that had no end date in sight, meaning that Universal could continue to have the Spider-Man in its parks as well as the other Marvel properties for as long as possible, while also being exclusive in certain areas of the United States. Furthermore, as a cherry on top of all of this, if Universal did eventually want to replace Marvel Superhero Island, they could theoretically still keep Spider-Man, as the ride was designed in a way to help allow for it to continue to operate via an entrance through the extended queue when the pavement from the ride needs to be closed for refurbishment. This could benefit Universal longer term, as if they do eventually choose to close the Marvel Superhero Island, they could keep Spider-Man by rerouting its entrance through the extended queue as a permanent offering, while freeing up the land in the rest of Marvel Superhero Island, helping make sure that they still have the rights to Spider-Man even if they do want to go and axe the otherwise outdated land, but still has that nice comic book and nostalgic vibe to it. In the end, as a result of its highly themed environments blended seamlessly with screen elements, Universal is able to transform guests and convince them that they are in the eyes of Spider-Man and its villains, face to face in such dangerous threats as they go and explore the cities of New York in a way that results in a sterling paper for the Daily Bugle that guests will remember forever and the amazing adventure that they had.